All right, for today, we're going to be talking about BMI, your body mass index, and you. It's kind of a heated topic for a lot of people. It's come up between me and some clients lately. Those that happen to weight train are really not fans of the BMI. Meanwhile, it's still being used by insurance providers and health providers. And so we want to delve into what is it, where does it come from, and what does it mean for you? So, what is your body mass index? It is literally a number. It is a ratio of your weight to height squared. So, supposed to be done using the metric system, as all fundamental math, science, physics is. If you're going to use the imperial system, you multiply by a factor of 703, and it'll give you the same number. That's the conversion factor right there. Hopefully it's obvious that once you reach adulthood, your height isn't going to change, but your body weight may. So we can watch your BMI change as you grow into adulthood. For all the parents out there, I'm sure you've seen the height and weight percentile charts that doctors use. It's the same kind of chart for BMI over time, and then once you reach adulthood, the denominator doesn't change anymore, only the numerator will. And again, it's a numeric measure of thickness, or thinness, if you like. Where does it come from? There was a Belgian statistician named Adolphe Quetelet, and he created it in, well, historians believe between 1830 and 1850. So it's a very old concept. Why do we have statistician and sociologist capitalized here? Because he was one of the foremost sociologists in the time, and he was obsessed with and created what he called social physics, precursor to sociology. This is based on statistical analysis, so he is not doing any mathematical derivations. He is not seeking to understand the underlying mysteries of the universe like a physicist would. This is literally collecting and analyzing data. So his goal was to find, based on that data, kind of a trend line or a best fit line for the socially ideal human. He never intended to create a medical screening tool. This was literally just an observation about the height and weight of the socially ideal human being. Interestingly enough, a couple of other sociologists and people expanded on his work years later, and it became the foundation of eugenics. So, unfortunately for Adolphe, that was one of the legacies of his work. Where did the term body mass index come from? So, Quetelet did not use the term body mass index. Again, he called it social physics. Ansel Keys coined this term in 1972. You might know the name Ansel Keys. He was the one that conducted the 7-country study, which basically determined that the low-fat Mediterranean diet was the healthiest. That's what led to the low-fat diet that we saw in the 1980s, 1990s in the United States. And the 7-country study was flawed and never successfully recreated because, as it turns out, it was more like, I don't remember whether it was 21 or 25 countries, but Ansel picked the countries that fit his hypothesis. So it was a great example of selection bias, which may very well call into question the integrity of Ansel Keys and whether or not we should believe anything he says. But when it comes to BMI, he was more or less spot on, this quote notwithstanding. BMI is, if not fully satisfactory, at least as good as any other relative weight index as an indicator of relative obesity. I forget which journal that was in, but that was his quote in 1972. So again, we can debate whether or not it's actually a good index, but where he was right on the mark is he explicitly stated that BMI is appropriate for populations and inappropriate for analyzing individuals, which again, going back to its creator, it was a statistical analysis of a population. Specifically, the ideal social population, which means sedentary. So as soon as we start introducing movement athletic endeavors, we can see that this is already less than ideal. We're not dealing with our target audience anymore. So this is typical BMI chart. This is in the imperial system. So height in feet and inches, weight in pounds. Again, your healthy weight will put you here. You get overweight and obese, and it gives you a BMI score of 19 to 24 is considered healthy, 25 to 29 is overweight, and 30 and above is obese. And I believe they've changed this a little bit, but there are still, now they have levels of obesity. They call it level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and so on. And again, all it tells you is a ratio of your height and weight. It's a double digit number, a single number, and that's all that you're getting. It doesn't tell you a whole lot of what else is going on under the surface. So limitations, it's designed for populations, not for individuals. It's based on statistical data. So again, everybody's a case of n equals 1. What do I have going on inside me? What is my background in terms of training and athletics? It's designed for sedentary populations specifically, so it does not consider muscle mass. On the flip side, it doesn't consider very high levels of adipose tissue. So once you get beyond a certain BMI range, if you have an extremely overweight, high body fat mass person, because it is a statistical analysis, outliers on either end will not be well represented. And so, given these limitations, the question is, why do we use it? Wouldn't body fat percentage be a better indicator of what's going on? I would argue you need both. So yeah, it gives you a good screening tool that if you have a high BMI, maybe we need to look at what else is going on, and that's where we can take a look at your body fat percentage. For example, I am considered obese based on my body mass index, but when I hop on my in-body scan, my body fat percentage is well within the healthy range. I carry a high level of muscle mass, so it doesn't tell the whole story. Why do doctors use it? Because insurance companies use it. And why do insurance companies use it? Well, what is actuarial science? It is literally a prediction of, or an evaluation of risk, a prediction of the future almost, if you will, based on numbers and data available. So of course they're going to use statistical data. And what do statistics say? It's people with lower BMIs tend to live longer. That's all they're looking at from a life insurance perspective. Again, even though I am a perfectly healthy individual, I was not able to get the top tier life insurance when I got my policy because my BMI was too high. Didn't matter that my health markers, my blood work, everything else was perfectly fine. It's one factor that insurance companies are going to look at because they're playing the long game, and they're not going to give the best policy if statistical data shows that someone of your BMI is less likely to live as long. So it makes perfect sense for them to use it because that is literally what they're all about. Why do we care, and should we be angry as individuals if, like me, you get a lower tier health insurance policy because your BMI is high? We still need to care about it because your heart is going to pump blood to all the tissues in your body, and it doesn't differentiate between lean mass and fat mass. So it doesn't matter to your heart if it's pumping blood to muscle or fat. The more mass you have, the harder your heart has to work. So if you have a higher BMI, you need to make sure that you're doing your cardio. Can't skimp on it. Doesn't matter if you are down at 6% body fat and you are bodybuilder physique, super lean. You got to be doing your cardio to keep your heart healthy, to make sure that your heart will not give out on you. We see this with numerous strong men that go to sleep and they haven't woken up. Heart just gives out on them because it's pumping. Yeah, they have high body fat mass, but their muscle mass is off the charts as well. So yes, we want to care about body fat percentage, and that is a good number to have, especially if you have a higher BMI. but we can't throw BMI out the window completely. And obviously, it's worth understanding where this comes from and why insurance companies use it. So hopefully you don't get pissed off. I've had 3 stories lately of people going to health fairs with their employer, especially government employees. The fiscal year is ending, so this is around the time where they get reevaluated for insurance. When I was a federal government employee, this was the time where we could change policies. And of course, as you're shopping around for insurance policies, inevitably you're going to have someone trying to sell you on a policy. They are often not in shape, and they still find it necessary to comment on your BMI. When you're like, really? You want to look in the mirror before you try to criticize me? So we want to try to keep things in perspective. Don't want to jack up our stress, especially if you have a high BMI and a lot of muscle. Makes your heart work a little bit harder. Keep the stress hormones down. Do your cardio. Don't worry too much about it, but hopefully you can understand why we still use this in the population and where it comes from. So, not completely meaningless, but again, it is limited. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, give us a subscribe, share this to people that you debate about BMI, and hope you learned something today. We'll see you next time.